Listen every morning and watch the whole day. Bend to your assumption. Neville Goddard taught that the moment you wake is the moment you are handed the clay of the day, and what you assume in that moment is what your hands will shape all day long. Look at the psalm the way Neville would have you look at it. Not as ancient history, but as a description of your own inner life happening right now. It says, "My voice shalt thou hear in the morning, O Lord, in the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee, and will look up." This is Psalm 5, verse 3. And Neville would stop you right there and say, "Do you see it? The Lord is not seated somewhere beyond the clouds. The Lord is your own wonderful human imagination, your own I am. And the voice you are told to let be heard in the morning is not a voice begging for something outside yourself. It is the voice of assumption, quietly declaring what already is. The psalmist does not say, "I will beg in the morning." He says, "I will direct my prayer," meaning I will aim my feeling, I will choose my state. And then he says, "and will look up." Not look around at the evidence of the five senses, but look up, into the assumption already fulfilled. Most people wake and let the day direct them. They check the phone before they check the feeling. And by the time they have read the news and the messages, 100 small assumptions have been planted in them by someone else's imagination. And then they wonder why the day feels like it is happening to them instead of through them. The way you have been getting your morning is by letting the world speak first. And that very method is what has been blocking the day you actually want firsting. Say it with me. I am the one whose morning sets the tone of the whole day. I am already living as the person I long to be. Imagination creates my reality. Again, I am the one whose morning sets the tone of the whole day. I am already living as the person I long to be. Imagination creates my reality. If you would like tomorrow's teaching to find you the way this one has, stay close and subscribe so it can reach you. Before we open the keys, drop the words "it's done" in the comments below, not as a wish, but as a settled fact. Let it be the first thing your fingers do, instead of the first thing the world does to you. If something in you just went quiet as you typed it, good. Let that quiet be your seal. The first key is, claim the first 60 seconds. Before your feet touch the floor. Before the light of the phone touches your eyes, lie still and feel the day already finished the way you want it finished. This is not wishful drifting. This is deliberate work. Neville taught that the state you occupy in that drowsy threshold between sleep and waking is the most impressionable state there is, because the critical faculty, the part of you that argues and doubts and compares, is still half asleep. And so whatever you assume there sinks in almost unopposed. Think of a woman who has been passed over for promotion twice, and every morning she wakes already rehearsing the meeting where she is overlooked again. She has been directing her prayer, only she has been directing it toward the very thing she fears. So the first key asks her, and asks you, to catch that first 60 seconds before habit takes the wheel, and fill it instead with the felt sense of already being spoken to with respect, already being trusted, already walking through the day as the version of her who got the promotion. Notice how ordinary this looks from the outside. She has not left her bed, she has not said a single word aloud, and yet everything has already shifted. Because the shift was never meant to happen in the world first. It was always meant to happen here, in this quiet, unguarded minute, before the world has a chance to speak first and hand her its opinion of what today will be. Picture also the man who reaches for his phone the instant his eyes open, and in that same 60 seconds receives a headline, a message, a notification, 3 or 4 small assumptions planted by someone else's imagination before he has planted a single one of his own. He has not yet chosen who he is today, and already the day has been furnished for him by strangers. This is why the first key is so quiet and so easy to miss. It does not ask for a long ritual. It does not ask for elaborate scenes. It asks only that you get there first, that you meet the day as its author rather than its guest. Feel, for just that first minute, the specific relief, the specific ease, the specific gladness of the day already gone well. Let the body stay heavy, let the eyes stay closed a moment longer, and simply occupy that finished feeling the way you would settle into a familiar chair. It is not about arranging your face into positive thoughts. It is about occupying a different person entirely for those 60 seconds and letting that occupied feeling be the seed the whole day grows from. I claim my first waking moment as sacred ground. The second key is, speak the day in the present tense. Not tomorrow I will be calm, not soon this will work out, but I am calm, this is already working out. Neville taught endlessly that the imagination does not know the difference between a vividly felt now and a vividly felt future. It only knows what you are handing it in this present moment. So when you say, tomorrow I will be confident, you are actually assuming the state of not yet confident. And that is the state the day will answer to, because the day can only reflect what you are being, not what you are hoping to be later. Think of a young man walking into an interview who tells himself all the way there, once I get in the room, I will relax. He has just spent the whole drive rehearsing tension, because the relaxing is always kept one step ahead of him, out in the future, where it can never quite be caught. And so he walks in still carrying the very strain he meant to leave behind. The second key asks him instead to sit in the car and simply feel, right now, in this seat, I am at ease, I am received well, the decision has already been made in my favor. Notice this is not about predicting an outcome, it is about assuming a state and letting the outcome be the shadow that state casts. It is not the future tense that builds a life, it is the present tense, lived as fact. Consider also the woman who tells herself, once the bills are paid, I will feel secure. Once he apologizes, I will feel at peace. Once the diagnosis comes back clear, I will feel whole. She does not realize she has made her peace conditional on the world moving first, and the world, being only a mirror, has nothing to move toward because she has given it no present feeling to reflect. It can only echo what already is, never what is promised for later. So pause for a moment, and pick one small phrase you catch yourself saying today. One will be, one will feel, one will work out. And quietly rewrite it in the felt present. Not I will be at peace, but I am at peace. Not this will work out, but this is already working out. Feel the difference in the chest as you say it. One is a door left open for tomorrow to maybe walk through. The other is a door already standing open now. Your day does not bend to your hopes about later, it bends to the feeling you occupy now, and it cannot help doing so, because it has no other material to build from. So drop the word will from your morning vocabulary as much as you can, and let your speech, even silent speech, live entirely in the finished tense. I am. It is done. This is so. And when old habit tries to slip the future tense back into your mouth, gently correct it, the way you would gently correct a child. Not with force, only with quiet return. I speak my day only in the tense of the wish fulfilled. The third key is, walk the ordinary hours as the one you have already become. Not just the first waking minutes, but the long, unremarkable stretch of the day, the commute, the inbox, the small talk by the coffee machine, because this is where most people quietly let their assumption leak out of them. Let us walk one ordinary day together, so you can see how easily this happens. At 7 in the morning, she assumes calm and capable. By 7:45, she is stuck in traffic, and without noticing, she has slipped into the state of frustrated and behind. By 9, she is in a meeting, and a comment lands wrong, and she slips again into the state of unappreciated. By noon, she is scrolling and comparing, and slips into the state of not enough. By 3, the fatigue sets in, and she slips into overwhelmed. And by 6, she wonders why a day that began so peacefully ended so heavy. And the honest answer is that she never fell out of favor with life. She simply stopped renewing the assumption throughout the day and let a dozen smaller assumptions borrowed from traffic and comments and screens quietly replace it 1 hour at a time. Neville taught that you are not your moods. You are the one who moves through states the way a person moves through rooms in a house. You can be in the room called irritation for a moment and simply walk out of it into the room called peace. Because you were never the room, you were always the one walking. Think of it also the way weather moves across a mountain. The clouds gather, the rain falls, the mist rolls through, and yet the mountain itself never becomes the storm. It simply lets the weather pass, while remaining exactly what it has always been. You are the mountain, the irritation, the comparison, the fatigue. These are only weather crossing you. They were never given the authority to become you, unless you forget yourself long enough to agree with them. And most people forget dozens of times a day without ever noticing the forgetting. So pause for a moment right now and pick one real hour from your coming day. The hour you know tends to pull you under. The drive, the meeting, the tired stretch after lunch. And decide in advance which state belongs to you during that hour. Decide it now, while you are calm, so that later you are not deciding blind. Picture a man standing in a long grocery line after a hard shift. The person ahead of him is slow. The child behind him is crying, and every ordinary detail of that line seems arranged to hand him irritation. But he has already decided, earlier in the day, that he is the kind of man who moves through small delays untouched. So when the irritation rises, he notices it, the way you notice a coat someone tried to hang on you, and he simply does not put it on. He stands there, still the one he decided to be that morning, and the line moves. And nothing about his evening was stolen from him. This is the whole of the third key, not a single dramatic act of willpower, but 100 small quiet returns, each one so brief it barely interrupts the day. So the third key asks you, every time you notice you have wandered into a state that does not belong to the day you are building, pause for just a breath and quietly return. Not by fighting the traffic or arguing with the comment, but by feeling once more, gently, I am the one this day is arranged around. I am moving through this exactly as the version of me who already has what she wants would move through it. It is not about controlling every event of the day. It is about refusing to let events assign you a state you did not choose. And it is not about achieving some perfect unbroken calm either. Neville never asked for perfection. He asked for return. You will wander. Everyone wanders. The entire practice is simply coming back, again and again, without shame, the way a hand returns again and again to a familiar doorknob without needing to relearn the door each time. I return to my chosen state as often as I wander. The fourth key is, let your self-concept, not the calendar, decide who greets you in the mirror each morning. Neville taught that the world is nothing more than a mirror reflecting back to you the assumptions you hold about yourself. So if you catch your own reflection and silently think, there she is again, still waiting, still overlooked, still behind, you have just reissued the very orders the day will carry out on your behalf. Self-concept is simply the answer you give, without words, to the question, who am I? And most people answer that question out of habit rather than choice. They answer it the way they answered it yesterday and the day before. And so the mirror keeps handing back the same tired face because it has never been given a new decree to reflect. Think of a mother who rises each morning already rehearsing the identity of frazzled, already behind, already not enough for the day ahead. She has not chosen this on purpose. It has simply become the coat she reaches for out of habit, the way you might reach for the same old sweater without ever asking whether it still fits. And so her children meet frazzled at breakfast. Her manager meets frazzled in the morning email. The traffic meets frazzled at the wheel. Not because the world conspired against her, but because frazzled was the only self she handed the day to work with. Neville would have her pause at that same mirror and ask instead, who am I choosing to be this morning? And answer deliberately, I am the one who moves through her home with quiet ease. I am the one whose children feel steadied by her presence. I am the one this day was arranged to support. Notice this is not affirming a lie to cover a truth, it is choosing which truth about yourself you will now live from, because both were always available to you. This is not vanity, standing before a mirror and declaring your worth. This is government. You are the governor of your own inner house, and the mirror is simply where you sign the morning's decree before it is carried out into every room you enter. Pause for a moment now and pick one real belief about yourself you have been reciting out of habit rather than choice, and quietly retire it. Hand the mirror a new instruction instead, one small sentence spoken as though it were already the plain fact of your life, and watch how faithfully the day begins arranging itself to agree with the self you have newly claimed. I am the one my whole day is arranged to bless. Take a slow breath with me before we go further into this teaching, and if it is stirring something true in you, let it be a reason to subscribe, so that the next teaching arrives for you the very morning you need it most. The fifth key is, and this is the deep root beneath all the others. Learn the state Neville called akin to sleep, and carry its stillness with you into the waking day. First, consider what this state actually is. It is not daydreaming. It is not merely thinking pleasant thoughts. It is that drowsy, low, almost sleepy condition in which the outer world grows distant and the inner world grows vivid. The condition in which a scene felt as real fixes itself into you, the way a hot coal fixes a mark into wax, or the way a seal, pressed into softened wax, leaves its whole shape behind, long after the hand that pressed it has lifted away. Neville often described lying in bed, deliberately relaxing every part of the body until it felt heavy and still, almost too tired to move, and only then imagining a small sensory scene that implied the wish already fulfilled. Not a long story, just a single touch, a handshake of congratulations, a ring being placed on a finger, a letter of acceptance held in the hand, felt as vividly as if it were truly happening. Because in that drowsy nearness to sleep, the imagination is undefended, the arguing mind has gone quiet, and whatever is impressed there sinks down into what he called the deeper mind, the same way a seed sinks into soil far more readily than it does into stone. Second, consider why the morning is the twin door to this same state. Just as you are settling down into sleep at night, in the morning you are rising up out of it, and for a few precious minutes you stand in that same undefended threshold, still loose, still without the day's noise pressing in. And this is exactly why the opening key of this teaching asks you to claim your first 60 seconds. It was never a small habit. It was your daily appointment with the very door Neville spent his whole life pointing students toward. Third, consider how ordinary this can be once you stop treating it as mystical performance. You do not need candles or ceremony. You need only a few honest minutes, morning or night, where you let the body go still, let the breathing slow, and instead of rehearsing your problems, you rehearse one small scene that could only exist if your wish had already come true. Feel the relief in your shoulders instead of describing it. Feel the congratulations in your chest instead of listing reasons you deserve them. Feel the specific weight of the object in your hand, the paper, the ring, the keys, because feeling is the secret ingredient, not effort, not repetition of words. Feeling. Fourth, consider the ordinary person who lies awake at night, doing this work backward without ever knowing it. Think of a man staring at the ceiling replaying an unpaid bill. He does not merely think about lack once. He lingers there. He feels the tightness in his chest. He pictures the letter that might arrive demanding payment. He rehearses the conversation where he has to explain himself. And because he is lingering in that drowsy, undefended state with such vivid feeling, he is doing the very work Neville describes, only aimed at what he fears. This is why Neville taught that the state akin to sleep is neither good nor bad in itself. It is simply the most fertile ground there is, and whatever seed you drop into it, fear or fulfillment, worry or wish, it will take root with unusual speed. So the same man, once he understands this, can lie in that same bed, let the body grow just as heavy and still, and instead picture the envelope arriving marked paid in full. Feel the small, quiet relief of setting it down, and let that be the seed instead. Fifth, consider persistence. Because this is where most people quietly give up before the key has even turned. They practice the drowsy state once, feel nothing dramatic, and conclude it did not work. But Neville taught that persistence in an assumption, even when the senses report nothing has changed yet, is exactly what allows that assumption to harden from a feeling into a fact. Think of the man who wanted reconciliation with an estranged brother, and every night for weeks pictured briefly the specific warmth of his brother's hand on his shoulder. Nothing in his outer circumstances moved for a long while, but he kept returning to the drowsy state, kept feeling that one small scene as already real, and one ordinary afternoon the phone rang, and it was his brother, calling for no reason he could explain, except that he had been thinking of him all week. This is not coincidence, the way the world uses that word. This is the deeper mind, moved by a persistent assumption, arranging the outer world to agree with what was already accepted as true within. Sixth, consider that the state akin to sleep asks for less than the mind expects. It does not ask you to hold a whole vivid film for 20 minutes. It asks for a single still frame, held with feeling, for a minute or two, because a small scene fully felt will always outwork a long scene merely watched. The mind that tries to force elaborate detail usually wakes itself back into the arguing state, while the mind that rests in one soft image, felt quietly, slips easily through the door. Seventh, consider that this state akin to sleep is also where revision does its quiet surgery. If the day has wounded you, an argument, a rejection, a careless word, do not carry it into the night as it happened. Instead, in that same drowsy nearness, replay the scene as you wish it had gone. Hear the kinder words spoken. Feel the respect you did not receive the first time. Because Neville taught that the day is not fixed the moment it happens, it is fixed the moment you assume it fixed. And revision done nightly in this soft state is how yesterday's wounds stop feeding tomorrow's fears. So let this fifth key be the quiet room the other four keys were always leading you toward. The morning claim, the present tense speech, the ordinary hour return, the mirror decree. All of them are simply doors into this one drowsy, undefended, sacred space where imagination does its truest work. I enter the stillness where my assumption becomes fact. The sixth key is, remember that everyone you meet in your bent day is you pushed out. Neville taught this plainly, that the people who greet you kindly or coldly, the stranger who lets you merge in traffic, or the one who does not, the colleague who praises you, or the one who criticizes, all of them are mirrors of the assumption you are carrying, not because the world is unkind or kind by nature, but because consciousness is the one substance, and what you meet outside is always an echo of what you are being within. Think of a woman who spent years believing she was easy to overlook, and watch how faithfully her day agreed with her. The waiter forgot her order. The friend did not return her call. The meeting moved on without asking her opinion, and she took each of these as proof of a hard and separate world, when really, every one of them was her own quiet self-concept, walking around wearing other faces, showing her exactly what she had been assuming about herself in private. This is the part most people never suspect. They argue with the waiter. They resent the friend. They rehearse the slight from the meeting for days, when the only true correction was ever inward. Because you cannot argue a mirror into a kinder reflection. You can only stand differently before it. So she began, in small, ordinary moments, to assume instead that she was easy to notice, easy to include, easy to remember, not by forcing anyone to prove it, but simply by feeling it quietly true within herself, and slowly, without a single confrontation, without a single demand, the world she met began to answer differently. The same friend called first. The same kind of meeting turned to her for her opinion unprompted, because nothing outside her had changed, only the assumption she was standing in had changed, and the day, being only ever a mirror, had no choice but to change its answer with her. This is why Neville would never let a student blame another person for how the day was going, not because people are blameless in the ordinary sense, but because the deeper truth is more freeing than blame ever could be. If the world is you pushed out, then you were never trapped by it, you were only ever forgetting your own authorship. And the moment you remember, the coldness you keep meeting is not proof the world is cold. It is only proof of what you have been quietly assuming, and it can be revised the same way any assumption can, gently, patiently, from the inside. So this final key does not ask you to manage other people or soften their moods. It asks you only to notice. The next time someone meets you with sharpness or distance, pause for a moment and ask quietly what you have been assuming about yourself lately, and let that question, asked honestly, be enough to begin turning the whole reflection kinder. This is what it means to watch the whole day bend, not the bending of luck, the bending of reflection, the world rearranging itself around the one steady assumption you would not let go of. The day I meet is the imagination I carried into it. Here is the whole picture. It is not that the day decides your mood, it is that your assumption decides the day. It is not that the morning is a small errand before real life begins, it is the door through which all of real life enters. It is not effort that plants the seed, it is feeling. Carried in that drowsy, honest state, where the arguing mind has gone quiet, it is not other people who determine how you are treated. It is the state you occupy that they are only faithfully reflecting back to you. Every key you have received tonight was never 6 separate tools. It was one key turned 6 times. Claim the waking moment. Speak only in the tense of the already done. Return gently whenever you wander. Let the mirror carry your decree. Meet the stillness where assumption becomes fact, and know that everyone who crosses your day is your own imagination looking back at you. Turn that one key faithfully and watch the whole day bend. If you are ready to stop leaving your mornings to chance and want a steady hand walking beside you, morning by morning, the 21-day reality shift was built for exactly this. 21 mornings of guided practice in claiming the waking state, living in the end, and returning to your chosen assumption until it becomes as natural as breathing. It is available now for a gentle investment of $27, fully protected by a 30-day guarantee, so there is truly nothing to lose and a whole new way of waking to gain. The link is in the description below, waiting for you whenever you are ready to begin. I am the one whose morning sets the tone of the whole day. I am already living as the person I long to be. Imagination creates my reality. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes, remember the door is already open. Listen quietly in that first still moment, and watch the whole day bend to your assumption.